And I can talk now to the lawyer and poet David Neita. He's a member of the Society of Black Lawyers and was at the launch of the review in central London. A very good morning to you and thanks for joining us. What's your reaction to the main points and recommendations raised by David Lammy in this review?
Well, it was a very comprehensive review, especially of the procedure that takes place from arrest to sentencing and further on to, prison sentence and release. And basically it showed that there's incredible bias within the criminal justice system. And I believe this is putting our country at great risk to be really looked at by the international community as a nation that doesn't respect the rule of law. Because the evidence shows that black people are treated differently and are treated adversely in this system. And I think that represents a massive and a huge loss to our economy. If you look at the recent case of the judge in the case of the Oxbridge student who stabbed her boyfriend, the judge looked at the student, a white student, and thought, she could be my daughter, she could be my niece. He considered a blooded boyfriend and weighed that against the potential of this child going forward to be a medical doctor and gave her a suspended sentence. And people criticized that. But I'd asked us to look at that sentence and see what was going on in the minds of the judiciary. Here the judiciary is looking not just at the crime, which we should look at and we should be tough on crime, but also the causes of crime, but looking at the potential that lies within. And often that is not done where black people are involved. And we have to view this in the context that Albert Einstein shares a similar condition with the majority of men in prison at the moment. There's this condition, it's kind of dyslexia, dyspraxia. But it was picked up, where it was picked up in Einstein, and he was cosseted and given the support, where he's made a massive contribution to the world. We have, in our case in Britain, we have people who display themselves and come into the criminal justice system, but they are not viewed with the same lens as, say, somebody like Stephen Wiltshire, a British artist of great repute, traveling the world, doing wonderful things, who have the same conditions, but is recognized, and we get the potential from this because we give the support.
Let me ask then, if the Lammy review attempts to make the criminal justice system more transparent, how do you make it more diverse? And is that the answer to this imbalance that the review is talking about?
Lammy is calling for sentencing to reflect not just overall sentencing, but the breakdown in terms of race. And this will make it even more clear about the racism that's taking place in the system. But the answer, in my view, is not just in the criminal justice system. We have to go to the education system and see what's going on there, because right now what we have effectively is an education system feeding the criminal justice system, when we find that black students are like up to 13 times as likely to be excluded for the same thing as a white student. So here we have these biases and prejudices actually creating a really embarrassing situation that we've got to stop, or we've got to address. And one of the things we have to look at is exclusions in schools, and look at pupils who pop up as at risk of exclusions, and just give the students the support that they are not excluded. We need to look at them as students who are quite bold, quite special. There's something about them. And I think there needs to be a kind of a program, a lot of programs rolled out to support such students, because when we lose them to the criminal justice system, we have a massive impact on our GDP.
Sorry to interrupt, some of the negative reaction to the Lammy review seems to be, if I can, think of a phrase to sum it all up, seems to be suggesting that there's a call here for some sort of positive discrimination, which has a certain irony when the Lammy review is talking about discrimination in the first place. But does that make you feel at all uncomfortable?
I hear those criticisms, but I don't think they're realistic, because when you look up and down this, if you look, I was just at another report, by the way, this week about discrimination in the workplace that this report was undertaken by the TUC. So when you look at racism, it's not just within the criminal justice system, it is in education, and it's also in employment. And so therefore, what we're saying, I don't think Lammy is even asking for positive discrimination. He's just I think the report is just asking, the recommendations are just asking, just do not discriminate. Just do not discriminate. So there is a bias within the criminal justice system. It is within the, you heard the Scarman report. We've had, the discouraging thing about this, I have to say, Anita, is that we've had every 5 years or so, it seems like these reports are rolled out, telling us the same things that we're hearing anecdotally when we're working in the legal system and when we're working in the education system, and nothing seems to be done about it. And for those who have a problem with recommendations that says that black people should be treated fairly, ask yourself, what kind of nation would you like to live in? We should be a nation where people are treated fairly based on their merits and promoted when they're shown to have great skills and can contribute. But this is not happening across the board. And when we look at crime, the thing we should also look at is what Tony Blair and Gordon Brown said 2 decades ago. We should be tough on crime, but also the causes of crime. And yes, we're tough on crime, but as a society, we haven't been tough on the causes.
David, sorry to interrupt, we must leave it there. David Neita, member of the Society of Black Lawyers, thank you very much.